All right. The nice thing about having these videos to document um, as the playoffs roll along is that a person can look back to an older video and say, well, wait, did he predict that? And I may have or I may not have. I said St. Louis has a reputation for choking. I said that when they were up 3-1 and they just won game 4. And they've lost game 5 and last night. That was a slaughter. That was. Now we're going to 7. So tomorrow night I'm gonna have my schedule completely cleaned out, which is hard for me because I have such a demanding schedule. What with the Cats and not having any friends and all, but I'm going to definitely watch that game. It should be fun because it's in St. Louis. So the trick for Chicago is score early. Score in the first 3 to 4 minutes. Get in Brian Elliott's head, and better yet, take the fans out of it. Quiet St. Louis down. Watch the St. Louis bench start to turn. And watch Ken Hitchcock lose a little bit more hair as it slips away. And I'm not hoping for St. Louis to have it slip away, but there is kind of a history here for the Blues, and they're reliving it. And as a Canucks fan, I feel that pain all too well. Now, Pittsburgh whooping the Rangers. I called that. I did. I called it. Pittsburgh is scary. And now that the Kings are out due to these guys, and I will give full credit where credit is due, these guys didn't just knock LA out of the playoffs. They beat the crap out of LA to get them out of the playoffs. I don't know why they put Dan Cloutier in net, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't Jonathan Quick. I think it was Cloutier with bad knees, because that was absolutely insane watching the Kings get taken apart like that. And San Jose's got to feel good about itself, because whoever comes out of Anaheim and Nashville, and it's probably going to be Anaheim. They've won 3 in a row, and it looks like it's likely going to be Anaheim. Nashville just doesn't have. They just don't look like they have anything left in the tank to answer Anaheim's attack. And if it's Anaheim and San Jose, I like San Jose's chances there, because they're gonna have a couple days of extra break. And yeah, so that series is done. And of course, Tampa's done. The Islanders are ahead on Florida 3-2, and I believe Game 6 is today. I haven't really checked schedule today. I've been dealing with some family drama, and anytime my ex-wife is around, it tends to throw me off my game, so to speak. I'm listening to some music, trying to chill, and then she shows up again this morning. So it just tends to kind of. Anyways, this is hockey. This is what distracts me from all the other shit that goes on. And there's a lot of shit that goes on in life, and hockey is one of those little things that I can have off in a corner. And I didn't do hockey-related videos last year because I really wasn't watching the playoffs last year. I watched parts of it. And then the year before, I was going through my ex leaving me, so I didn't watch any of it. I didn't give a shit. It's like, who won the cup? Good for them. So I'm getting back into who I was and into the whole hockey thing and making these videos. And I am having fun watching them. As long as I'm not passing out because I'm overtired from work. But that's a whole other story. What other series is still going? I mean, you've got Washington choking out against the Caps, which I think is funny. And even if Washington wins, let's say Washington wins Game 6. They win in Philly, they win Game 6. Phew, right? No, they got Pittsburgh waiting for them. They've got a fully fueled, ready to go, absolutely scary, confident Pittsburgh Penguins team waiting for them. And there's Capitals that have this much of a doubt. And when you look at teams that have broken Washington's heart, and you look over the last 30, 40 years, the Islanders are number 1 for breaking Pittsburgh hearts, or breaking Washington hearts, and Pittsburgh's number 2. I was a huge Capitals fan in the 90s, and I remember it was Luke Robitaille that scored in, I think, the 4th overtime, and I hated him for it. It was 3rd or 4th overtime, and I was so mad because I had watched this game for 7 hours, and then those pricks won it again, so I was not happy. my allegiances change over the years based on who's on which team. And the Capitals are not at the top of my list anymore. But I will say this. I love Braden Holtby. I think Braden Holtby, and I've loved Braden Holtby as a goalie since he was a rookie. And I remember they were tooling around with Neuvirth, and they were tooling around with all these other guys, and I'm like, Holtby's the guy. It was obvious to me Holtby was the guy the whole way along. So, and this summer I intend to do videos where I say, here is the guy on each team. I usually pick out a player on each team, and I go, that one. And it'll usually be a rookie that's not really well heralded. It's very often a goaltender who's putting up really good stats, and nobody seems to give a shit. Like Matt Murray in Pittsburgh. Oh, he's won 3 in a row. Yeah, because he's a damn good goaltender. He put up great stats in junior, and then he put up great stats in the American Hockey League last year, and now everybody's surprised. Where did this Matt Murray guy come from? I don't know. If I'd been doing these videos 2 years ago, you would have heard me beacon off about him. He's a really good goaltender. And it baffles me that this happens. It really does. It baffles me that this happens in this day and age of oversaturation of NHL product, any sport, really. And scouts everywhere, video everywhere, and that these guys can seemingly fly under the radar. Where people are like, I don't know where he came from. I'm sure Pittsburgh's had GM, scout, all of that brain trust knew what Matt Murray was. They were probably scared of bringing him along too soon, but they knew what they had because they didn't panic and try to get another goaltender at the deadline. So, and there has to be concerns with Fleury and Zakhoff. Zakhoff's a decent backup, but if something happens with Fleury, you really want to ride him, and Fleury's, shit the bed in the playoffs a few times over the last 6 years. Murray is the guy. And Pittsburgh, if they win a Stanley Cup and Matt Murray is in net for the whole, I will be cheering for Pittsburgh by the time the final rolls around if they get there. It is hard not to cheer for this kid. Because when I see somebody come up to the NHL who nobody's really paid attention to and they do really, really well, I'm really happy about it. And when it's somebody that I looked at their stats 2 years ago and said, wow, he's really tearing it up in junior. This kid's really good. And then he doesn't get drafted early on, and I'm like, well, I didn't draft him early. I wonder what they see that I don't. And then you look at his American Hockey League stats last year, and you're like, yeah, they're idiots. They're idiots. They don't know what they're doing sometimes. And scouting is an inaccurate thing, really. I mean, you hear a lot about, oh, Detroit has great scouting. Detroit has, yeah. I will go through this over the summer and prove Detroit does not have great scouting. They have some lucky scouting, and what they had that other teams didn't 10, 15 years ago is they had advanced scouting in Europe. So Sweden, Finland, KHL, all that, they had scouts through there, and they would pick a guy like a Datsuk or a Zetterberg, and they'd go, this kid's going to be really good. Shut up about it. None of the other scouts have seen him, and if they have, they don't see what we see. It's fine. We'll draft him later. So that's where they were brilliant. And now every NHL team scouts Europe. I mean, 2 of the top 3 draft picks this year are probably going to be Finns. So it's harder now to make that pick. It's harder now for Detroit to do that. And Detroit was the first team out of the playoffs. They're starting to feel the pinch. Nyquist and Tatar, both good players, but are they going to be the stars that Detroit needs to stay in the playoffs? And I really don't know if they will be. I don't know if once Zetterberg and Datsuk both move on, if Detroit's going to be, and I mean, they can still sign free agents, they can make trades, but if they're going to rely on Nyquist, Tatar, Brennan Smith, are they a playoff team anymore? Yes, Mrazek came in and played better than Jimmy Howard, but are either of those goaltenders going to keep the Red Wings in the playoffs? They were this close to missing this year. If Boston had got their heads out of their asses once in the last 2 weeks of the season, Detroit's probably not there. So, they're getting to that point where they calls for a rebuild, I think, are a little much, but Detroit does have to start finding some diamonds in the rough again. So, yeah, this year's playoffs are just amazing. Drop my markers. I knew I was going to do that. I kept monkeying around with them. And, yeah, I'm very, very psyched about this. Seeing the Kings out opens up the Pacific. If St. Louis knocks out the Chicago, that opens up the whole field. Then you have no idea who's going to win the cup. I like Pittsburgh though, and I say that as a non-Pittsburgh fan. But they look really impressive, and if they play in the second round the way they did in the first, Washington doesn't have a chance. Washington's done. So I guess we'll just see what happens. But Ovi's going to be chomping at the bit to get it to Sid the Kid, so he may have a really big game today, knowing that in the second round he gets to play against Sidney Crosby again. Because they thrive against each other, and they seem to really enjoy playing against each other. So I guess we'll see. I guess that's all I have for today. And, I mean, this isn't, a San Jose jersey they wore this year. This is from the Stadium Series last year. I got it on sale. Anytime you see jerseys I'm wearing and you go, hey, he's got lots of jerseys, I've probably got them on sale somewhere. In my dealings with my ex last night, she threw some money at me. It was more than I would have expected, so I found a jersey sale online right away. So there will be a new jersey added probably a week from now. Probably next Friday it'll come in, maybe the Monday after. It was on sale, and I was like, well, I can afford that, and then next payday I'll be able to squirrel away the money. The only thing is I loaned her some DVDs of mine because there was a series that I like, and I'm like, well, she's never seen it. Ah, hell, I'll loan it to her. And her vehicle got broken into, and they're gone. So she left them out where people could see them. That's a whole other story. A whole other story. Just like how she told me she clicked on a link in Facebook to buy Oakley's. Because smart people do that. You clickbait. Clickbait. Like, I see the links every now and then for jerseys. You can get these jerseys for $40. I'm going to tell you right now. If you're on any website and you see click here, you can buy a genuine NHL jersey for $40. It will usually say, not Chinese knockoff. And the reason they write that? Because they're Chinese knockoffs. And she even said, yeah, it's coming from China. And I'm like, oh my God, your Oakleys are coming from China. Oh my God. And she's like, oh, I know it's a scam now. You research this before you give them your credit card number. You do that. And then she's like, oh, they got my number. And I'm thinking, you haven't canceled the card. Why haven't you canceled the card? First thing I do. I came home one day, I couldn't find my bank card. I went to the bank, got a new card, and canceled that one immediately. And I had maybe $20 on that card, but I was like, fuck you, my card. So, and then I found the card when I came back home. I still have it in the cupboard as a reminder that sometimes I'm stupid and I'm really bad at finding things. But, and if I ever accidentally use it, maybe the cops will show up. But this was reported stolen. No, I reported it stolen. What do you mean fraud? How can that be fraud? I frauded myself. Hockey. It's just there's a lot of stuff up here right now. It just wants to come out. Yeah, hopefully Dallas knocks out Minnesota. I'm not betting on it. Minnesota won Game 5, and they won it in overtime 5-4. And Antti Niemi almost played goal for the night. It was nice of him to make a couple of saves and then decide to be a sieve. I don't have any confidence or faith in Dallas' goaltending whatsoever. They have 2 goaltenders that are 1Bs, and they don't have a 1A. And this is why I have no faith in Dallas, even though I have Dallas hats. I have tons of Dallas shit all over this apartment. I love Dallas. And they're not winning the cup. I'll go out on a limb and say it right now. When you have 2 starting goalies and neither of them are very good, you're probably not going to win the cup. So they'll probably go to Lettinen tonight. I know it's Lehtinen. I call him Lettinen because he's usually letting the puck in. Could be a long night because the bad guys could win again. The Islanders could knock out Florida tonight. Poor Lou. Poor Lou. He stands on his head in Game 5 and he loses, and I'm thinking, man, he's got to be having Vancouver flashbacks right now. He's got veteran forwards that can't score. He's got an ineffective defense in front of him, and he has to stand on his head to get the win. He's got to be having Vancouver flashbacks because that's how it was. Lou couldn't have a bad night or he was done. And you think about that for a second. How much more stress is there for a goaltender who knows his team won't give him any support if he starts to struggle? If he lets in a bad goal, the whole team's going to go, we're done. How much worse is that than a guy like Corey Crawford, who can allow a couple of shitty goals in a period, and the Hawks go, all right, guys, we're taking this back. We're not going home. We are going to win this game tonight. And then they come out and beat the shit out of St. Louis from there, scoring 5 in a row. That's how you do it. So whenever I hear fans of Vancouver whine about Lou, that's all I think of is look at Chicago, look at the way their team responds when they're down, look at the way they respond when their goaltender's not having a great game. They beat the shit out of them. They open the floodgates and they just score, score, score. And that's what you should do. You do it for your goaltender. And he thanks you the next game by having a great game. That's what usually happens. Crawford will usually have a great game after. So going into Game 7, Crawford could pitch a shutout. St. Louis could be struggling and could be... The ghosts of the past are really, really screaming right now at St. Louis. And if Washington loses today, oh boy, is Ovechkin going to be feeling a lot of pressure going home for Game 7 in a series that should have been over in 3. Because Philly, after Game 3, should have said, fuck this, we give up. We're not going to play Game 4. Our fans shouldn't have to see that shit. We're done. Nope, they put in Neuwirth, and Neuwirth's like, oh, I know these guys. We're good. And he single-handedly won Game 5, and we'll see what happens in Game 6. So if you're not watching because the Jets aren't in it, and the Flames aren't in it, and the Montreal Canadiens aren't in it, and Ottawa's not, you're crazy. Those teams are shit anyways. Let's be honest, there's not a Canadian team right now that's any damn good. Montreal was only good because of Carey Price, and once he got hurt, Montreal was a piece of shit. And I was so glad to see it happen because I've told Montreal fans that for years. And I've heard, we've got a good team. And it's like, no, you really don't. You really don't. Thomas Plekanec is one of your top forwards. You don't have a good team. You have Markov on the blue line and Subban, and then a lot of eh. They had a big prospect, Jared Tenorti. He didn't turn out, so they traded him off, and now they don't really have that upcoming defensive prospect that's going to take over a game, and Subban needs some help with that. Markov's getting a little long in the tooth. So when Montreal fans say, oh, we're the best team in Canada, it's like, that's like being the smartest kid in the special class. Yeah, it's nice you got that A, Billy, but come on. Look around the table. Come on. Come on, none. You made the playoffs this year. Watch the playoffs, Canada. I imagine the ratings will pick up as the rounds move along because Canadians can't resist a good hockey game. And this has been some pretty damn good hockey. So thanks for watching.